Major and I, this is a sidebar to preparing yourself for fishing in northern Michigan. But I'm gonna tell you something. Right off of I-75 at marker 282 is a little restaurant called Las Señoritas. It is the best American Mexican food you'll ever eat. This is one of my personal favorites. And so we're gonna pop in here and get a little Hola Señorita, and then we're gonna continue on with our time. We'll go to Jay's and buy some fishing stuff. What do you say? Huh?
I'll hold my judgment till later.
Oh, that's right. Well, listen, I don't care what he thinks. This is my favorite place. We'll see ya. We're just pulling into Jay's Sporting Goods in northern Michigan. This is one of the bigger tackle stores. We don't have Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops and things like that up in this part of the world. But what's nice about a place like this is they oftentimes will really carry a lot of those more mainstream items that are a little more high. They'll have the better quality fluorocarbon lines. They'll have more of the mainstream high-end type tackle, Lucky Craft lures and crankbaits and live target, and just the high-end stuff will be in place in a store like this up here. And this is Jay's. There's actually one of these in southern Michigan too. It's not a commercial. It's just where we're buying our stuff. All right, so we made a couple of stops at mom and pop's places, and now we're at the big store. So, all right, anyway, we're going to break ticket. You ready, mate?
Yep, ready to go. Let's go do it.
This is the stuff that I use most of the time when I'm drop shotting. I get the usually the 3-inch. I usually get some kind of a smelt type looking bait. But this is it right here. These are the ones. This is what I use almost exclusively on my drop shot. I find that these with the little black back are the best. And so obviously here's the 2.5 inch. I like the 3-inch a little bit better. They're just a little bit larger, and these are the ones I do use 2.5s as well. But these are the ones that I really like to drop shot with. Now they've also got some other stuff here. Well, let's see if they have. Oh, right here. These are really good. This is the they call it the crawler, and it's just a long, thin version with a paddle tail on it. I'm not doing a very good job of pointing. I'm looking at it instead of the camera here. But this is the crawler. These are also fantastic. I like to get them in a green if I can. Right now I see they only have one bag of these darn things. Let's see if they got more down here. They've got them in a chartreuse, although smallmouth are really, really well known for eating stuff this color. I don't really like throwing. That's not my favorite thing right there. So hopefully they'll have some more of that stuff laying around here. We've loaded up on the drop shot soft plastics that I like to use the most. Everything else I already have. We'll sometimes use small Senkos, little 3-inch Senkos. Will also work good. I tend to not use longer baits on the smallmouth. We tend to use just a little bit shorter, more subdued baits. Not that they won't aggressively hit just about anything, but day in and day out, you're going to get more bites on a little bit smaller bait. So that's why we do it. Some other things, inline spinners. I'm not gonna buy any inline spinners because I have them. But inline spinners are also a really good way to catch the smallmouth, especially if they're if they're in an attitude where they're not chasing a crankbait or a jerkbait. And you still want to have a moving bait. Inline spinners are a really good choice, and they're very popular up north as well. Here's something else too that you don't always think about, but of course jerk baits are legendary with smallmouth, and this clown pattern is likewise legendary. This is actually a walleye deep diver. What's interesting about this bait is that with the big, it's a deep diver, but they're floaters. So what happens is you pull it down 2, 3, 4 jerks, it gets down about 4 feet, and then it slowly floats back up again. And it wouldn't normally be something you'd use for a jerkbait for smallmouth, but if you're fishing in a little bit deeper water and you want to get that bait down a little bit further, many times I've used the deep diving style stick baits for that. All right, next stop are tube jigs, guys, and these are this is what you put the hollow tube baits on. I get rattles on my tube baits or tube jigs 100% of the time. All right. Now, what differentiates these baits one from another is the style of the line tie. This is a 60-degree flat, and you can see it turns away. These are great for moving the bait on the bottom. and whatnot. And this is the one I go to, you know, if I'm really fishing on the bottom. If I'm doing a lot of drop, where I'm dropping the bait, I want like a 90 degree, because when the bait falls with a 90 degree head, let me see if I can give you an example of that real quick here. Show me a 90, guys. Show me a 90. Oh, those are all 60s. Well, this would be an example of a 90 right here. That's an example of a 90 where the head is right perpendicular, or parallel rather, or perpendicular from the shank of the hook. Those, when they'll fall in a circle like this, the bait does. And again, that's like a dying minnow, you know, kind of a look, and so that's what we're looking for here. But I'll get 1/8 ounce, 1/4 ounce, and 3/8 ounce. I don't play around with the 16th stuff. And I, like I said, 100% of the time I'm gonna get rattles. You can always just jerk the rattle off if you don't want it, but I like to have them. So that's the tube jig itself. We'll talk about the soft plastics that go on that in a bit. Always think about it, if you didn't bring them from home or whatever, you want to have some good swivels. I prefer ball bearing swivels, but I like to make that chase rig scene anytime I'm using a swivel, whether it's with a tube bait or especially a 90-degree head where it's spinning all the time. It'll twist your line quite a bit. This will give you the opportunity, you know, tying a swivel in will give you the opportunity to create that chase scene and keep the twists out of your line. Also, if you want to go with a heavier leader, if you're using, I like to use that as opposed to a uniknot if I'm using braided line and things like that as well. So anyway, I don't need any of that stuff today, but I wanted to make sure I point out, you know, Spro's the company that makes the swivels that I use 95% of the time, probably 100% of the time at this point. But that's just another thing something you're going to want to have on hand. I drop shot weights. I use the cylinder drop shot weights for the most part. You know, it look kind of like this. This is an extremely long one and a large one. I don't like to use the round. The round unless I'm on a real sandy bottom, you know, the round catches in the rocks too much and it catches in the grass too much. I will use round though if I'm throwing like target fishing. If I'm bed fishing, where I'm trying to just throw it right into a single spot and kind of hold it right there, that's when I'll use the round. But other than that, I tend to use the cylinder weights, again, probably 90% of the time. So you want to make sure you've got that stuff with you. And as much a personal choice as it is performance choice. A lot of people like Berkeley Vanish when it comes to fluorocarbon. I've had luck with it. I've not had good luck with it. I've had it break on me at times when I really felt like it shouldn't have. Joe, would you grab me a couple bottles of Rejuvex? We need a couple bottles of Rejuvex there. So I shy away from it. It's a little less money, but it just hasn't always performed well. I've had the same experience with Vicious. I'm not trying to bash on companies here, but that is what it is. I've used the Red Label Sea Gear with a lot of success, but it's foot for foot or yard for yard. It's about the same price as the P-line, and this is the stuff I've had the most success with, and I like the most. I wish they had more 12-pound. They only have one spool of 12. But this is the stuff that I've been using. When you're up here, when you leave Lake Okeechobee or South Florida and you come up here, or any of those places like that where line doesn't matter as much, and you start to switch all your gear to fluorocarbon, you want to go with a good quality line, and so that's why I'm using a P-line. All right, and it's one of those things where I've had really good luck with it. You know, if I'd have put it on and tied a couple bad knots and it broke on me the first couple times, I'd probably have a different attitude about it, but I haven't. It works good, so I like to stick with what's working, especially when you got people who are laying down their money to come fish with you. You want to make sure you got the best stuff you can. So that's my line choice, guys. I'm gonna put I've got some 6-pound, I've got 8-pound, and I've got 12-pound, and I'm gonna put the 12 on the bait cast rods, and I've got some 10. I'll put some 10-pound on bait cast rods as well, and then 8 and 6 on the spinning gear. All right, now listen. So we've gotten our shopping done. Now we're gonna go. I've got a bunch of stuff moved out of the boat and into the truck, so we're getting organized here. We're gonna head back to probably the launch. We'll probably go to the launch, either put the boat in or right at the launch there. We're gonna spool some rods and start tying some rigs, and we're gonna go out and see if we can catch some smallmouth bass. So step 3. You ready?
Drive on.
Drive on. Here we go. Drive on, the order has come. All right, so we're driving on. Get it, bro? You sure do. Oh, look at him jump out there, Jewel. Look at him jump. He's fine. Just hold your rod nice and tall. You're fine right here. Nice and easy. How big is he? 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. Well, let's see how accurate you are.
He just thinks he's grown.
I know, they're tough, aren't they? They don't want to come to the boat. Look at him emptying his stomach here.
Oh no, it's bigger than
He is bigger than you thought.
I want to get a picture.
Oh, yeah. Oh yes, you're darn tooting, Bob. Oh yeah, that's a heavy fish.
That's nice.
Look at that fatty. Look at that fatty, Joe. That's how we do it. Right away. This is one of our first or second, just our first pass on this grass line here. And look at that fish, man. That's fantastic. Here, let's get the hook out. There he is, Joe. There he is.
Oh
Yep.
shit, I can't.
No, I'll get you. I can send him to you. Don't you worry.